Well, first things first, anybody knows I'm not on my squeaky chair, so I won't have to listen to the chair chirp through this video. But I wanted to take it a little bit and introduce another fly. In this case, you've probably already seen it in the introduction, the Comet. This is basically, this fly is a classic standard. It's known as the Boss. It's just a very simple black and orange classic Comet that's been on the scene for absolutely ever. It was a West Coast steelhead fly, salmon fly if I remember correctly, and came into the Great Lakes and we have adopted it here. I use this pattern quite a bit. I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about how I fish it, the sizes I use, how I tie it, why I tie it a certain way, then I'll tie the fly. For any of you that are non-fly tiers that are already this far into the video, thank you, hang in there. In the front half of this, I'm going to, as always with my tying videos, I'm going to have some fishing tips, and I'll talk a little bit about the fly design and why you want a fly designed a certain way to help you be successful using these patterns. So right here in the vise, this is as large as I go. I do go pretty small. I'll talk about this now. What I'm going to do is zoom in on the table with the fly patterns. I'm going to become a hand model now. You don't need to see this mug. But anyways, let's get talking about the fly. Alright, let me talk about these flies, how I use them, and what I'm looking for on a fly. So this would be really handy for you guys that are not fly tiers and just more and purchase your own flies to give you something to look for. The biggest I use them in, and this is on a size 1, it's tied on a 24-51. It's a big fly. I use this a lot when I'm fishing sink tips in heavy conditions, heavy water, because it'll just sink really good. This is a size 4. This is tied on a 15-30. This is kind of what I use day in and day out for most of my guiding and a lot of my fishing, especially when I'm in the upper portion of the rivers where the fish have been in for a while. They get a little bit more sensitive to bigger flies and a little bit more presentation sensitive. So this is a really good solution there. This is tied on a 6, same hook, 15-30. And this is actually a really good solution for, ironically, low water, clear water, drought conditions. When these fish get into these really droughty water, low water conditions, they'll often move up into pocket water. The water's really fast because you're also in drought conditions fighting water temperature. So that oxidated water in those pockets make them feel a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more grabby. But they're also, you got to be careful with your fly size. With that low clear water, we got to drop our fly size down. So this 6 on a 15-30, which is a great hook, by the way, is an excellent choice. And it's a nice petite, I would say sparsely tied fly. It'll sink, get into the pocket fast. You can make a quick presentation to these fish and get it right to them, and they can get very grabby. This is so I've had extremely good luck in pocket water and low clear conditions with a smaller size 6 fly. You just kind of do a little nifty drift rig with it, drift swing with it, get it right into those pockets. Those eyes will help drive it down, get it in there fast. So this is a really good option for low clear water. The other nice thing about these Comets, and where I use them a lot, is very often if you're fishing with a friend that's not too good at tributary fishing, getting a fly down, keeping that depth, these eyes, speed chain eyes, help them with that presentation, helps them keep it down, keep it at depth, because you don't want to be on the bottom, you just need to be near the bottom. That's something where a lot of people make mistakes salmon fishing. They're dragging a fly on the bottom instead of getting it up in the water column. And oh, by the way, even though I might be talking salmon fishing, keep in mind the same thing goes for steelhead too. And I catch a lot of steelhead on these things. So yeah, salmon, steelhead, it's 6 in 1, half a dozen. They both, what I'm saying goes both ways. So for steelhead fishermen, same thing applies. So that's the 4s that do there. Now I'm going to go back to one of my larger flies here because you can just see it easier on the camera. I'm going to talk a few things about the design of the fly. I do tie it traditionally with chenille and all that, which I'll go over on a tying portion. But one of the things you want to be mindful about, the bead chain eyes. I often joke about the bead chain eyes. These flies can see where they're going, and they like to find the rocks. And these bead chains have a tendency to wedge in the rock, so you want to be a little bit careful about the water you use it in. So that's the first thing to keep in mind. The other thing is sometimes people think they'd be smarter than me, and they'll take, instead of using the bead chain, they'll go ahead and use they'll put Clouser eyes, lead eyes on them, and those chrome nickel eyes. They look cool, they get the fly down quick, but I can guarantee you, you're 2 or 3 drifts away from losing the fly in the rocks. It's just too heavy. The bead chain is more than enough weight. So that's something to keep in mind. And very often I've been known to tie these with plastic bead chain so I can have that nice eye effect, bead chain effect look on the fly, which I kind of like. And the plastic bead chain is a lot lighter, and they don't get hung up in the rocks as bad, and they'll drift more appropriately, I should say. So something to keep in mind if you're having problems with these things being extra snaggy, go to the plastic bead chain. But definitely stay away from anything that's got lead eyes on them. If you're buying flies and you go into a shop and they got them tied with lead eyes, don't waste your money. The other thing I'll do often is if I'm having problems with things hanging, or if I'm fishing in a lot of snaggy water, is I'll just delete the eyes altogether. I'll just tie the fly and not bother with that, and bother putting the eyes on. I kind of call them fishing them blind. But that's another option. But that's basically how I use it. Like I said, these bigger ones, I'll tie on or I'll fish them a lot of times on sink tips, get them down in heavier water, especially earlier in the season. Or if we get let's say we get a blast of water, some heavy rains, and the river comes up, this can be a great option. Swinging, especially if the fish are not responding to your bigger intruders and stuff like that. They just don't seem to be interested in them. Sometimes dropping down to your fly profile, and this is a really good option. That's why I like these on ones, because when we're swinging, we are self-sorting to a more aggressive fish. We need a more aggressive fish to come up and chase the fly. And as a result, when you hook those more aggressive fish, they're going to be extra angry, and you're going to have a very aggressive fight on your hands. Vice versa. That's one of the nice things about swinging flies. You're getting the ones that are all jacked up. So a little extra hook in there to help you hold a very angry salmon or steelhead can be very useful. But anyways, that's the rundown on the flies. What I'm going to do is move on to the fly tying part of it, and I'm going to show you the materials. I don't usually put up a material list for you fly tiers. What I do is I'll show the materials right there on here and talk about what I got for materials, so you may have to pause it and take notes. Sorry about the inconvenience of that, but I like to do more of a show and tell than just print it out. So anyways, let me move on to the fly tying portion. Okay, once again, back to being a hand model. So this is a pretty straightforward pattern. So for the tail right now, I'm using some Arctic Fox in black. I've used calf tail, black bear hair, which is my favorite, is the black bear hair, but black calf tail. I happen to have a bunch of Arctic Fox, so that's what I'm using. I've used goat in the past, so anything that's kind of long and black with a little bit of stiffness is perfect. The Comets have a stiff tail. The body is black chenille, and really little side note, if anybody recognizes the old wooden bulk spools, if anybody recognizes this thing, yeah, you're being aged. Talk about vintage. But anyways, it's oval silver tinsel, or not tinsel, malar, whatever you want to call it, but medium silver tinsel. The thread is, in this case, is some white. Don't ask me what it is. It's just some old stuff that I'm using up, but even like 6/0 uni would work great. Whatever your favorite fly tying thread. I happen to like the red or the orange. This is bead chain. Really quick, this is all on bulk bead chain. It's I get it at the home store. It keeps the cost down. It's like 1/3 of the normal cost. And here again, this is the hook I tie most of them on. It's a Daiichi 1530. I also use 2451s. This happens to be some size 4s. I do go up to size 1s with this hook. And obviously some 1530s that I talked about before. Hackle is strung hackle. I like the more the Schlappen stuff, the longer, softer stuff. It just swims better. So that's why I like the softer hackle, because of the movement in the water when I'm swinging, or even dead drifting. I can kind of come alive and wiggle. So I use a little softer hackle. I like a lot of the strung hackle, and the Schlappen is what I use quite a bit for. So you can see it's, yeah, some of the webbier stuff is what I'm looking for. So that's what I use for materials. Let's get on and tie this thing. Gotta clear the deck first. All right. Hopefully I make a decent background in here. Let's get this thing tied up. And we'll start out with the hook here. Like, this is not a complicated fly itself. It's pretty straightforward fly tying. I'm going to start out just by, like I always do, dressing the hook. And let's go round up some of that Arctic Fox that I'm using. Get a little chunk here. Just bear with me a minute, folks. Get some of that longer. The Arctic Fox has got a lot of under hair in it, and I like working more with the guard hair, so I end up taking a pretty decent pinch out. I like a prominent tail on these things, but I don't want it overly heavy. And what I do is I just kind of clean up the short fuzzies. I should set that that under hair aside for a for dubbing, but anyways, what I'm doing is I'm kind of lining up some of those really nice long stiff guard hairs. And I always like measuring my tails, but here's again, this is hook shank. I go a little longer than a hook shank, so I'm just going to square it off and take as much of the tail as I can and just tie it on the back there, just past the bend of the hook a little bit, just enough to secure it, because I want a nice long, as you can see, tail in that fly. Comets have long tails. I'll run up some of that vintage oval tinsel in silver. Tie that along the side, and then I'm going to just go after my chenille. And what I'm going to do is just tie the chenille probably 3/4 along the shank, along the side of the hook shank. The reason why I tie along the shank there, if I keep putting it off in the front, your flies end up with a disease I call lumpy butt. You get a big pile of stuff stacked on the back of the fly, and they get a fat rear end. I like them on beef cows, but I don't like them on my flies. There we go. And now I do leave about 2 hook eyes worth of gap here from the chenille body to the back of the eye to work with, because we got to put hackle and we got to put the bead chain on it. Now, real quick, I went this way with the tying thread. So the ribbing, I'm going to go the opposite direction. I like to counter wrap my ribbing. It does 2 things. One is, even though this is just tinsel, it's not very strong, neither is the chenille, but if you just do the 2 of them, it helps strengthen up the body, makes it a little bit more durable. Plus, by counter wrapping, your tinsel doesn't fall in between the wraps of the chenille and get lost. So it allows for the silver ribbing to stand out and give that little sparkle effect that you need. I kind of half-jokingly always say our salmon are like bikers. They like their bling. Now, I probably just got a whole bunch of bikers mad at me for that joke. Alright, so sometimes I might tie this fly in tip first. Sometimes I'll go butt first. And a lot of it has to depend on the quality of the strung hackle I have at the moment. Because I don't get too fussy. I just try to crank the stuff out. I think with this one, for our purposes, I'm going to just put it in tip first, just to show you how I tie the hackle in tip first. So I'm going to come in, and this front part here is getting really short, really stiff, and it's not really what I like or what I'm looking for. I want that long, soft, webby stuff for the collar. So I'll just kind of move back a little bit, cut it off, and I got that little triangle. I don't know if you can see it here or over the fly too well. Let me get rid of that. It's annoying me. I got scissors if it bugs me, I'll just hack it out. But I got the little triangle effect right there. I think you can see it. And that's what I'm going to tie in. Catch it with a few turns of thread, secure it in there. And now it's just like behind the eye, right up in there. It's all nice and secure. And I'll just basically, at this point, I want the curve of the feather going this way. So I'll just a turn or 2. And as I'm winding this collar, I'm just kind of grooming it back, the fibers back with each turn. You know, a lot of techniques that they'll show there, they'll fold all the fibers over. Well, I don't take that time. I just kind of groom as I go. And just butt wrap that hackle. And yeah, I'm getting a little crowded. I'll just get my fingers in there, stack it back with my fingernails. And there we go. Everybody says how many turns of hackle. I use the same response until it looks right. Just about, it's all a little bit different. Now, here again, I'll come with my fingers. Best hackle guard you got is your fingers. Kind of come back, pull it over, and I'll wind back over on the hackle a few turns. One is that kind of helps lay the hackle over the body. And if it misbehaves, what you can do is you can come in there. I've showed in the past where you just kind of spin the hackle around. But I like how this is laying over. It's not against the body, but it's just kind of angling over the body. I kind of like how that looks. At this point, I'm going to come back, and this, since I'm tying on a large one, I'm going to use a large bead chain, because this is one I'm hopefully will have some high water vents, and this will be a fly I'll use during that. And I'll just kind of come in and just make sure the hackle's out of the way, and just use a figure eight and tie it on. And these are not complicated flies. They're effective flies. You can crank them out. You're not going to use a lot of expensive materials. You're not going to, these flies don't turn into craft projects. So you can tie a mess of these things, go fish with them. If you lose a couple in the rocks, no big deal. You get some violent eats, which you will get with these things, and they break you off on eat. Yeah, it makes a good story. And yeah, if it's a couple fish, just take them. So what? You can produce a bunch of these things and go fish. And you can produce them pretty quickly. I would like whip finishing behind the bead chain eyes, kind of help protect that whip finish. So here you go. That's the Comet. Like, pretty simple, pretty straightforward. It's an effective fly. I've used them for years with great success. And they're usually somewhere in my boxes. I hope this fly works for you. Best of luck. Once again, thanks everybody. For you guys that are not fly tiers, thanks for sticking in with me. I hope you picked up something, a fishing tip or a fly tip, how to look at flies a little bit different. You fly tiers, I hope you like this fly. Give it a try. Tell me if there's another fly I'd like to see. Put it in the comments. Yeah, thanks for watching, and as always, hit me with a like and you know, hit the subscribe button, and tell me what you think. See you on the water, folks. This is Jay at JPEG Guides and Lost River Fishing. We are a year-round fly fishing catch and release guide service. We fish the Lake Ontario tributaries, and then during the spring and the summer we also fish the inland trout streams, classic dry fly fishing. During the heat of the summer, we will do the warm water fishing for bass and pike. If you're interested in any of our outings or have any questions, please feel free to email us at fish@lostriversfishing.com. Hope to hear from you, and if you have any questions, feel free to contact us.